It's crazy. It's an election year, and everybody's been talking about election interference and how we need to secure the United States election system from third parties. We need to protect our election system from China and from Russia, and how people were utilizing, how China and Russia were utilizing Facebook to divide the American people. And I don't believe that. Do I believe that it was happening? Absolutely. But do I believe that China and Russia have that much influence over the American people? No, I don't believe that. What I do believe is that election interference and the division in America is a result of Americans not being able to be honest with one another. That the division in America is because we aren't able to talk about the difficult subjects in America, the places where we disagree the most. We're not allowed to have a debate on it. We're not allowed to have civil debate about it. Let me give you an example. In a relationship, you will have one person that might be very emotional, and they can say whatever it is that they want to say to you, and you just got to sit there and take it, right? Now, on the other hand, when the other person might have a particular issue and they can't say anything at all without that other person getting defensive, then there's not an opportunity for growth. So what happens is one party is expressive, but is not able to actually grow, and the other party is silent and is growing in silence. So in America, we have people who are talking about gender issues, issues of the economy, issues of foreign policy, and there's a lot of emotions with it. And there are people who disagree, and it's okay that we have people who disagree. But if I'm able to call you racist, if I'm able to call you transphobic, if I'm able to call you all these different words and all these different terms, but I, in turn, am not able to say, I'm not transphobic, I just don't want this kind of thing being taught to my children. I'm not racist, I just don't understand why your people do these kinds of things. Well, there's an opportunity for understanding as long as there is a conversation and communication going on. And anytime that the conversation devolves into disrespect and uncivilized behavior, then there's no chance for you to come to an understanding. And so when we have these massive protests are great for democracies. They are absolutely great for democracies. Democracies need protests. They need people being out in the streets, saying what they need to say, and expressing their point. But the same freedom that you have in expressing yourself, you have to allow for others to have that same freedom. Anytime that you stop one person from doing the thing that you have been given the right to do is the moment that you allow a third party to take that right away from you. I'll repeat that again. If you're able to do it, but somebody else isn't able to do it, a third party, someone on the outside, is going to take advantage of that and make sure that neither one of you have the opportunity to speak. In America, we say, well, if the Democrats are allowed to say whatever it is that they want to say, and the Republicans are always getting called racist and things like that, or transphobic or things like that, then that gives an opportunity for a Russia, for a China, for a government, for a tyrannical government, for an autocratic leader to say, you know what, I'm going to make sure that all of it is silenced. Why? Because one party, the Democratic Party or the Republican Party, doesn't matter, is going to beat up on the other one to make sure that that they can't talk. And then that third party out there is going to make sure that nobody else can talk as well. Let me even clarify that. When I mean third party, I don't mean as in third party in politics. I mean as outside individual, somebody who's not concerned about our democratic process, somebody who isn't concerned about the future and health and growth of this country. You know, there's a song, it's like, it's cool when they do it, but when I do it, it's a problem. And anytime where you feel that one person is allowed to criticize and you aren't allowed to criticize them, then you start having problems. Because then it says that what I need, what's important to me, what I think is more important than what you think. And really what people want is, if you're in it together, you want the best for your country. You want the best for your state. You want the best for your community. You want the best for your family. So it's very easy for our government officials to point the problem at outside influences, outside countries like China and Russia, for our own domestic problems that we have of the division in this country. And the division in this country is not because we believe different things. The division in this country is because we aren't willing, or we aren't mature enough to have adult conversations about our differences of opinions and differences of belief. That is where growth happens, in the uncomfortable conversations. The Democrats will call you transphobic or call you racist. The Republicans will call you illegal and lazy. You know, and in some ways, that all those labels, there's some truth to it. But it's not just black and white. The issues aren't clear cut. There's a lot of context that is involved in it. And so much of our debate is devoid of context. All the context has been removed. Why? Because people find comfort in choosing sides. The gray area is very uncomfortable, but the gray area is where all the power is in. Because those that understand the gray area, those that understand the context, are able to maneuver and navigate amongst the different sides, amongst, and move around the minefields, move around the landmines, and achieve their goal. That's what wealthy people are doing, because they market to both sides. They don't see you as a Democrat, they don't see you as a Republican, they see you as a consumer. That's what the political parties do. They don't see you as a Democrat, they don't see you as a Republican, they see you as a voter and a potential donor. It is us that are part of the 90% of America, the people who are not part of the top 10% of America, that are forced to choose sides in a sometimes complex and highly contextual situations. What is the context? Um, am I transphobic because I don't want my children being taught about transgenderism? Or am I transphobic because I don't want my children being exposed to sex changes or gender changes at an early age? Am I transphobic for that? Or am I a concerned parent who feels that changing your gender is an adult decision and you shouldn't be exposed to that until you're an adult? I don't, it's not a hating of anybody. Is this appropriate for children? Do you want children making adult decisions? And that is an adult decision. And that's where some of the disagreement is, well, that's not an adult decision. Well, what is an adult decision then? Should we allow children to be able to drive? Should we allow children to be able to have firearms? Should we allow children to engage in sex? This all seems crazy. It all seems crazy, but it really comes down to what do you actually feel is appropriate? And if you feel that that's appropriate for you, then fine. However, you as an individual have the right to choose what you feel is best for your children and for your family. And I as an individual have the right to choose what's best for my children and for my family. How does the exercise of my right impede your rights? And vice versa, how does the exercise of your rights impede my rights? That is the very contextual and detailed conversation that's not being had in America. And people are so emotional about it. And these are emotional issues that people are talking about because identity, your gender is part of your identity. So of course you're going to be passionate about that. But is that a decision that you want a 4-year-old making? Is that a decision that you want a 10-year-old making? Is that a decision that you want a 13-year-old making? Those are the real questions. Is that a decision that you want your 13-year-old making? Those are the questions. That's the context that these issues are need to be discussed. But the moment that you start calling somebody a name, that's where the conversation starts breaking down and where you have to be, as an individual, very focused on trying to get to the bottom of the matter. Anytime that somebody tries to use sign language on you, shame, insults, guilt, and the need to be right, anytime that they try to use that, then that means that instead of having an argument on the merits, they're now trying to win an argument through manipulation. They'll shame you for feeling the way that you feel. They will insult you for thinking the way that you do. That you do. They will guilt trip you They will guilt trip you for thinking and feeling the way that you feel and think. And then the need to be right. That it doesn't matter what they do. Doesn't matter what they say. That any equivalency can be made just to prove that they are right. And just because you think that you're right or you feel that you're right doesn't make your actions right or correct. So if America wants to have better conversations, a richer democracy, a better democracy, then America has to be serious about having those uncomfortable conversations. Nothing can be off limits. So the uncomfortable things that you don't like, you should have the right to be able to talk about that. And there might be things that you do that other people may not like that you should be able to that they should be able to have that conversation with you. That's where American politics will become great again, is if we're able to have the debate, have a fair and open and honest debate. It doesn't mean it's not going to be ugly. It doesn't mean that it's not going to be uncomfortable, but a fair, open, and honest debate. Let's not even look at it from this perspective. Just let's talk about STDs. Which one would you rather have? Your son, your daughter contracting an STD, an incurable STD, or when they first start having sex, that you're able to have that they come to you and have that uncomfortable conversation with you. Hey, mom, dad, I'm having sex. And now you as a parent, you can either get mad about it or you can provide them the tools that they need to protect themselves so that they don't catch an STD. That's communication with the difficult subjects. You may not agree with your children having sex as teenagers. You may not like it, but if that's the reality, you can only deal with the reality if you actually want to protect and save and help your children. The same thing goes on with America. You can only help protect and save America if America is honest about what she believes, what her people are thinking, and having the uncomfortable conversation when there are differences of opinions, differences of beliefs, and differences of values. You don't have to like it. You don't even have to agree with it, but you have to respect it. So many people were taught that respect is earned. No, 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 no. Trust is earned. Respect is given. Think about how you feel when somebody doesn't give you respect. When they don't respect what you think, when they don't respect what you say, when they don't respect what you do. You're not going to listen to that person. You're not going to hear anything they have to say. In fact, you're more likely to be hostile and confrontational with a person that you feel doesn't respect you versus somebody that has given you respect. The respect of being a human being. The respect of you're somebody's child and somebody loves you. Somebody loved you. Somebody cares about you. The respect that You're an American and you have the right to speak the same way that I have the right to speak. That's the kind of America that we need to live in. That's the kind of America that's going to be great. But as long as we go with the name calling, the insults, and not listening and not hearing and misconstruing what people are saying and listening to respond instead of listening to understand, then other countries and other people are going to be able to rip our democracy from right out of our hands. And it's happening now. And we won't have anybody else to blame except ourselves.